Lil Wayne was a druggie. Like this group of guys, a druggie.
Lil Wayne drank so much lean that his body began shutting down. Mac Miller turned fame into a slow and silent self-destruction, and Gucci Mane was so deep in addiction that jail became the only thing that saved his life. These aren't rumors, they're real stories of rappers who nearly lost everything to drugs, and some who didn't make it out alive. And then there's Eminem. When it comes to MCs who walked through hell and somehow survived, nobody has a crazier story than Marshall Bruce Mathers III. The Detroit spitter who rose to become one of the most successful rappers of all time spent years trapped in a pharmaceutical nightmare of his own making, a situation that nearly cost him everything, including his life. It all started going downhill in the early 2000s when the pressure of superstardom became overwhelming. Non-stop touring, crippling anxiety, severe insomnia, and the massive expectations following the Slim Shady LP and the Marshall Mathers LP pushed him toward prescription pills as a way to cope. He believed they were safe because doctors prescribed them, never realizing how dangerous that path really was. By 2002, while filming 8 Mile, the addiction fully took hold after he was prescribed Ambien for insomnia caused by the brutal shooting schedule, a drug that acted like a mental eraser and allowed him to function in a detached haze, something he thought was helping his anxiety while it was actually pulling him deeper into addiction. As his tolerance kept climbing, he started escalating to heavier prescription opioids and benzos, Vicodin, Valium, and eventually methadone, and by 2004 to 2005 he was swallowing 20 to 30 pills a day, with numbers spiraling to as many as 60 Valium and 30 Vicodin just to feel normal. Everything changed in December 2007 when a methadone overdose nearly ended his life. He bought pills from a plug thinking they were Vicodin, not knowing they were methadone, far more powerful than anything his body was used to. He collapsed in his bathroom and was rushed to the hospital, where doctors told him he was just 2 hours away from dying. Even that wasn't enough to stop him, and he relapsed within a month, but eventually, through one-on-one counseling, grinding it out in the gym, and support from sober friends like Elton John, who became his sponsor, Eminem finally found his way back. He's been sober since April 20, 2008, which puts him over 17 years clean as of 2026. But as incredible as his comeback is, it's only one chapter in hip-hop's long war with addiction. For another legend, the demons were much harder to outrun. DMX, born L. Simmons, was a raw, unstoppable force whose aggressive delivery and painfully honest bars made him one of the best-selling rappers ever. Yet beneath the platinum records lived a darkness rooted in childhood trauma that would ultimately claim his life. X was introduced to drugs at just 14 years old when a trusted mentor, a local rapper named Ready Ron, betrayed him by handing him a blunt secretly laced with crack cocaine. At the time, L didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't touch drugs, but that single act of deception, which DMX later called the birth of the monster, ignited a crack addiction that followed him for the rest of his life.
Do you want to stop?
Yeah.
Are you working on it?
Yeah, every day. Every day.
And how so?
I start my day off with a prayer, ask the Lord to guide my steps and, cover me, keep me safe.
Where DMX grew up didn't help either. He came up in poverty-stricken projects where crime was everywhere, and survival meant finding a way out by any means necessary. Robbery and hip-hop became his two escape routes, and when his career exploded in 1998 with its Dark and Hell Is Hot, the fame only fed the addiction. By the early 2000s, he was constantly in and out of court, drug possession, DUIs, assault charges, all tied back to his substance abuse. In 2016, he nearly died after overdosing in a Yonkers hotel parking lot, collapsing and needing Narcan just to stay alive. He went to rehab multiple times, appeared publicly on Dr. Phil and Ian Lana, Fix My Life, and spoke openly about trauma, but the addiction stayed locked in, tangled up with mental health struggles he often tried to downplay. On April 2, 2021, DMX suffered a heart attack caused by a drug overdose that cut oxygen to his brain. He fell into a coma and passed away on April 9, 2021, at just 50 years old, with toxicology reports later showing a deadly mix of cocaine, fentanyl, and other substances. While X's battle ended in tragedy, another Southern legend's addiction took a different but still devastating toll on his body and career. Lil Wayne, born Dwayne Michael Carter Jr. in New Orleans, signed with Cash Money Records at just 12 years old and grew into one of the most influential rappers of all time. but his personal life was marked by serious substance abuse, especially leaner recreational mix of prescription cough syrup containing codeine and promethazine, usually poured into soda and candy. Wayne started experimenting with drugs as a teenager in the crime-ridden Hollygrove neighborhood, where substances like codeine were part of the environment, and he openly celebrated lean in his music, turning it into a lifestyle symbol through tracks like Me and My Drink, helping glamorize it across hip-hop culture.
Lil Wayne was a druggie. Like this group of guys are druggies. It wasn't just syrup, it was he was doing all that shit. He was doing shrooms, so they were talking shrooms. That's why all of his music, homie, his creativity. He can't tap back in because he done burnt out. He needed these drugs and this mind-altering substance to go into this studio.
That lean addiction led to serious health problems for Lil Wayne, most notably the seizures that kept landing him in the hospital. In October 2012, he suffered 2 seizures aboard a private jet, forcing emergency landings in both Texas and Louisiana, and just months later in March 2013, he had multiple seizures while shooting a music video and was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He was found unconscious, had his stomach pumped, and doctors discovered dangerously high levels of codeine in his system. Wayne spent 6 days in the ICU, with people close to him saying he had reportedly consumed 3 bottles of lean the night before. Years later, in June 2023, Wayne admitted his dealing with memory loss caused by epilepsy, saying it's become difficult to remember his own songs, something many attribute to the long-term effects of drug abuse. His mental health struggles only fueled the addiction, and in 2021 he opened up about attempting to take his own life at just 12 years old and the battles he still faces today. While Wayne has tried to scale back on lean under doctors' orders, concerns remain about the lasting damage done to his body. And speaking of lean's devastating grip, another young artist's addiction to the sip would capture global attention when his life was cut tragically short. Juice WRLD. Born Jared Anthony Higgins, the Chicago rapper blended drill, emo, and pop-punk influences into an emotionally raw SoundCloud sound that exploded worldwide with lucid dreams, yet his music consistently reflected the personal demons he was fighting, including the addiction that would take his life at just 21. Juice WRLD began experimenting with substances as early as his freshman year of high school, around 14 or 15, and later admitted in a 2018 interview that drug-heavy artists like Future influenced him to try lean. His addiction centered around prescription opioids and depressants, including Percocet, codeine through lean, and Xanax, a combination that slowly but relentlessly pulled him deeper into danger.
Like a fine line between having an influence and like letting the drugs like do you instead of you doing the drugs, like, cause it's so easy to get overconsumed and shit. I mean, I kind of lucked out cause I didn't know the fine line between like, you know, just taking something to come up with some ideas or getting the vibe versus that being the lifestyle.
As Juice WRLD's career skyrocketed, his drug use intensified along with the access that fame brought. People around him noticed he was hiding pills, acting sober around some while quietly popping them with others. His engineer, Max Lord, broke down in tears during their 2019 Australia tour, confronting him about how many pills he was taking and begging him to get help. Fearing for his life, Juice agreed to go to rehab and booked a spot for December 22, 2019, the earliest available, but he never made it that far. On December 8, 2019, just days after turning 21, Juice WRLD died from an accidental overdose involving oxycodone and codeine. After landing at Chicago Midway Airport, he began seizing while police searched his private jet, with witnesses saying he swallowed multiple Percocet pills in a panic to hide them. Narcan was administered, but it was too late, and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. In the aftermath, his mother founded the Live Free 999 Foundation to support young people struggling with addiction, anxiety, and depression. Another artist who openly spoke about how success and depression became entangled with substance abuse was the Pittsburgh native whose death sent shockwaves through hip-hop Mac Miller. Born Malcolm James McCormick, Mac was a rapper, singer, and producer who rose in the early 2010s through independent mixtapes before evolving from light-hearted frat rap into deeply introspective, jazz-influenced hip-hop. His struggle with addiction was laid bare in both his music and interviews, and it ultimately claimed his life at just 26. Mac admitted his drug problem went far beyond music, saying it was tied to depression that followed success itself. He started with weed in high school, but as his career took off, his substance use escalated. After Blue Slide Park dropped in 2011, harsh reviews and the pressure of touring pushed him into heavier weed use and eventually lean, and in a 2013 Complex interview, he openly acknowledged how deep it had gotten, admitting he wasn't happy and was heavily dependent on lean at the time.
I had a drug problem, you know, for a long time. It wasn't just in music, but I definitely was going through a drug problem, and I think it was more my state of mind. I was just pretty depressed, as everyone.
Even while successful?
Yeah, I think it started.
With success.
I was soaked all the tomato was bad. Mac Miller's 2014 mixtape Faces peeled back the curtain on his daily drug use, depression, and suicidal thoughts, with chilling lines like, "A drug habit like Philip Hoffman will probably put me in a coffin." By 2016, he had reached 3 months of sobriety and spoke about feeling healthier both mentally and creatively, but after his 2018 breakup with Ariana Grande, he relapsed, slipping back into heavy drinking and hard drugs. On September 7, 2018, Mac was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home and was pronounced dead from acute combined drug intoxication, with fentanyl, cocaine, and alcohol in his system. 3 men were later charged for supplying him with fentanyl-laced counterfeit oxycodone pills, and his death ignited widespread conversations about addiction and the deadly rise of fentanyl in hip-hop. While Mac's story ended in tragedy, another artist who openly battled addiction and mental health struggles lived long enough to deliver a powerful warning. Pimp C, born Chad Lamont Butler, was one half of the legendary Texas duo UGK and a pioneer of Southern hip-hop whose gritty street narratives helped shape the region's sound. But his severe addiction to lean would ultimately contribute to his death. Pimp C was one of lean's most outspoken champions, a mixture of prescription-strength codeine cough syrup and promethazine poured into soda, which became deeply embedded in Southern rap culture, popularized earlier by figures like DJ Screw, who died in 2000 from a codeine overdose. Pimp C frequently glorified the drink in his music, including UGK's collaboration with 3 6 Mafia on Sippin' on Some Syrup, and behind the scenes, the addiction had been gripping him tightly for years.
I was addicted. If addiction, like I was addicted, but I didn't think I was addicted during my usage, because I didn't think that I was on the drug so bad that if I stopped, I would have like physical withdrawals. I associate that with like drug use and drinking stuff. Man, when I went in jail and then I went drinking lean, I went through like withdrawal, like you withdrawing from heroin or something like that. It was like.
Pimp C also suffered from sleep apnea, a condition that causes breathing to stop during sleep, making his drug use even more dangerous. After serving nearly 4 years in prison for an aggravated assault conviction, he reportedly returned to heavy substance use, which led to significant weight gain and rapidly declining health. On December 4, 2007, Pimp C was found dead in his room at the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood at just 33 years old. The coroner ruled his death accidental, citing respiratory depression caused by an overdose of promethazine and codeine, compounded by his sleep apnea. His passing cast a harsh spotlight on the dangers of lean and sparked serious conversations about addiction within Southern hip-hop. Another Atlanta legend whose addiction nearly destroyed him before he completely reinvented himself would later rise from years of chaos with one of rap's most powerful redemption stories, Gucci Mane. Born Radrick Delantic Davis, Gucci Mane is a trap music pioneer whose career was long overshadowed by severe drug addiction, deeply intertwined with mental health struggles and repeated trips to prison.